Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Marisa Kozlov. It's great to have you with us for today's eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host guests from all areas of media, ad tech, and martech. Today's guests will discuss strategies for improving acquisition efforts with a data-driven approach, and we'll learn how brands are using technology to refine audience targeting, enhance measurement, and optimize campaigns in real time. So let's meet my guests from Adobe. We have three guests today. First, we have Scott Christofferson, product marketing for Adobe Real-Time CDP, who is joining us today from Utah. Scott, nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having us, Marissa.
Really happy to have you. Next, we have Marisa McKay Tarantino, product marketing for Mix Modeler, joining us from San Francisco. Hi, Marisa.
Hi, Marissa. Love the name. Thanks so much.
Love it. Great to have you with us. And lastly, Shana Wasden, product marketing for analytics, joining us also from Utah. Shana, nice to see you.
Hello. Yeah, thanks for having us today.
Well, I'm really happy to have all of you for our audience. We are also so happy to have you in our audience. You are in for a treat. So please let us know where you're joining us from. We have two people from Utah, one from San Francisco. So let us know where you're coming to us today from using that chat window on the right side of your screen. And also to submit any questions that you have during today's presentation. We're doing a live Q&A in the second part of the show. So we will do our best to get to as many questions as we can. So please keep them coming for us. Well, Scott, Marissa, and Shana have great content planned for you today. Scott, I'm going to pass it to you.
Awesome. Hey, thanks again, Marissa. We're really excited about this. And as our title slide says, it's a plan, reach, measure, repeat. And we acknowledge that customer acquisition is something that's top of mind for probably all of us on this call. And it doesn't have to be a burden. It can be something that becomes an art. And really, that's what we want to talk through today is what are the ways that we're thinking about that? And I know Marissa already introduced us, but all of us are working on ways that we can help with customer acquisition in a very complicated setting. And we're really excited to dive into that. But first, we want to talk a little bit about who you are and maybe some of the challenges that you're facing. And we can address this later in the presentation. So the question is, what are some of the challenges you face in executing on acquisition strategies at your brands? So whether that's isolated teams, siloed media agency strategy, proliferation of channels, measurement obstacles, increasing privacy regulations, rising costs. I know that these are all things that I hear about often, but we'd love to hear what are maybe some of the challenges that you're facing within your brand or maybe your industry. It has become a very simple fact that, and one that may seem both surprising or unsurprising, and that is that consumers are being exposed to an average of 5,000 brand messages every day, which causes many of us to ask, how do we stand out? So whether you're surprised or not by that, this slide will likely resonate well because many brands struggle to meet customers in the moments that matter most, even after days, weeks, or even months of preparation and planning. So even after much preparation and planning, there's still challenges. Because here's the catch. Consumers are being bombarded with information at an unprecedented rate. And what this does is it paints consumers into a corner that forces them to make snap judgments about which brands to engage with. And they do it very fast. They decide in less than 400 milliseconds whether they'll engage with the brand's message or move on or ignore it. So what does this mean for brands? First, it's clear that standing out has never been more difficult. And because these mere milliseconds are the culmination of tireless work and the opportune moment of a valuable customer experience, brands simply cannot afford to miss the moments that matter because it represents the opportunity to start a long-lasting relationship or to miss out completely. So Adobe is here to support brands that are looking to do that from customer acquisition through to driving engagement and then ensuring that we're focused on delivering the right content across all of these channels. So a lot of companies can talk about customer understanding, but fewer can action and engage off of it. And only Adobe can inject data and content to actually create and not just inform a unified customer experience. So the three strategies of delivering a unified customer experience as we define it are first, customer acquisition, which is designed to find the most valuable prospects, then customer-centric engagement, which is intended to evolve one-time value to lifetime value, and then finally an omni-channel content activation, And this is to deliver connected, personalized experiences every time. So with this basic understanding of our recommended approach to building lifetime customer relationships, I'll hand it off to Marissa to add a bit more color to some of the challenges that may be faced along the way.
Great. Thanks so much, Scott. So as he mentioned, we're really going to lay on some of the anxiety thick here with our presentation, right? If you've ever heard an Adobe pitch, we like to kind of help understand the anxiety around why these topics are so important, but we will then come in with a solution and some ideas about how everybody can tackle these at their brands. So just to start, it's not a secret that everyone in an organization is trying to execute on the vision and strategic objectives of their CMO. And that CMO is really focused on proving value of their organizations. That is a very big theme that we're seeing across pretty much every vertical and every conversation that we're having. According to this year's Gartner's Insights from the CMO Spend Survey, more CMOs are reporting that internally at their organizations, there's more likely to have the perception of marketing being viewed as a cost center versus a profit center to the organization. That's up about 8% from 2023, so certainly a rising trend. But only about a third of these decision makers report that they're able to use revenue growth as a metric of their organization's success. And it's pretty crucial to speak in terms of revenue growth and these types of metrics when talking to a CEO or a CFO who's doling out the budget or asking for these types of metrics when it comes to making decisions about the business strategy. And in addition, we know that CMOs believe that they lack the necessary budget to actually execute on their strategies. They're facing increased pressure to do more with less. There is heightened budget scrutiny due to the macroeconomic climate that we're all living in. And overwhelmingly, they agree that they have to make significant changes in how they're operating in order to achieve more sustainable results. So, in terms of where that change in strategy comes from, one area appears to be renewed focus and vigor on customer acquisition. More than half of the marketers at large enterprises surveyed, and about 40% at smaller ones, are starting to bet on this tactic, really refocusing their attention here to be that growth engine to show revenue realization. And it makes sense, right? Because the idea here is being that if I can prove my efforts to really fill the funnel are driving growth for the business, I can show how that's providing value to the organization across other efforts because it has literal trickle down effects on things like customer loyalty and lifetime value, which Scott alluded to in his talk track just now. But doing that, finding the right prospects, understanding if they add value, that's going to require new and improved ways of working. Because it's clear that based on these stats here and just the conversations that we're all having, I'm sure you guys can relate as well, the traditional ways we've operated or the technology that we have had access to is just not going to cut it when we think about how quickly things are moving, both in terms of how our customers are inundated and therefore how they expect us to interact with them, but also in terms of how our own organizations are expected to function. Marketers are saying, hey, we need access to metrics tied to revenue growth, which we can only get if we have access to better, faster mix modeling. They say that they view mix modeling as unlocking future growth potential and a tactic that really helps them with long-term scenario planning. If they can't validate why they need certain budgets to reach certain goals, the planning of channel spend or campaign strategy is overall negatively impacted. It compounds the do more with less expectations. And one of the most important campaign strategies, the audience of who you're going after to prospect, that's getting more difficult. Signal loss from the third-party data deprecation, the regulatory pressures, people spending more time across more channels and devices. The problem is really that we don't have the ability to reach people where they are as easy or as seamlessly as we used to. So this requires stronger partnerships with data providers and publishers. And in fact, a survey that we conducted at Adobe with over 2,000 of our customers found that more than 60% of marketers are planning to activate directly with platforms and 40% directly with publishers. They're moving budget away from programmatic efforts because it just doesn't make sense and it's not helping them meet their goals. And brands also need to ensure that they can properly measure the efficacy of these efforts. The C-suite says it was their number one priority last year to move to a measurement-focused framework that really promotes the timely access of data and analytics because they have to optimize these campaigns. They know it will have a direct impact on those business growth metrics as well as customer retention. So where does that leave us? Essentially, there's been a whole bunch of factors that have compounded over time. Nothing that I'm sharing with you is probably new information or a new feeling that you all haven't experienced in some capacity at your brands, because over time, so many of these things have compounded, creating some barriers to execute in the ideal way. From a planning sense, CMOs and marketers say that they can't accurately or precisely forecast ROI. So it's very challenging to do that based on how traditional modeling tech and modeling vendors operate. From a reach perspective, the finding and reaching qualified prospects is really hard to do at scale because it requires contracting with several partners, sharing your data in many different systems, ultimately just spending more money along the way that drives up your acquisition costs. And in the measurement lens, the signal loss and media and audience fragmentation really comes full circle. We lack connected and timely data, therefore lacking the ability to get these metrics tied to incrementality or revenue. So proving growth becomes really difficult, let alone being able to optimize towards those growth metrics while a campaign is still active. So, put simply, this current state means missed opportunity. There's more cost and waste, there's missed ROI, and just a lack of organizational alignment. And we know that avoiding wasted spend and lowering acquisition costs will yield more revenue. With Forrester, brands report more conversions are possible when the right campaign tactic is chosen and report 10 to 15% higher ROI with informed budget allocation. So, rest assured, Shana is now here to talk us through what is on the horizon in terms of a solution.
So now that we've really unpacked what the challenges are that y'all are facing, and I'm sure we'll see in the survey in a little bit some of those things bubbling up to the top. But what do marketing organizations really need, right? They need technologies that address these three key areas of planning, reach, and measurement so that they can see an impact on customer acquisition and growth performance. They ultimately need that ability to build media plans that use predictive outcomes that are going to forecast both audience and budget scenarios. They need a way to really predict the optimal spend mix within and across channels for these campaigns, as well as the predicted reach of new audiences so they can have an understanding of where they'll see the most return on investment and have something to optimize towards. Next, they need something that's going to help them maximize efficient reach by activating into publisher and partner environments for both direct and expanded audience reach so that they can combat that signal loss and that fragmentation that's happening and hampering the scale that they're able to deliver on. And they need to know which audiences are most cost effective and providing the most value in terms of taking the actions that they ultimately want them to take. And finally, they need this modern measurement framework that really allows them to access those key business metrics across all channels, online and offline, using incremental ROI and direct attribution to really evaluate the success of acquisition campaigns on engagement, but also retention and loyalty objectives. And this data needs to be available during a campaign's life cycle on a regular basis, not something that comes after the fact when it's too late to actually make an impact. And they need it to plan with for the next time so that they can validate the budget asks and make those strategic decisions. And of course, we're making this sound like it's really simple, as obviously everyone is able to do this today and doing it well, surely, right? But we know that there are existing processes and actions that are taking place across the spectrum of customer acquisition within your organizations today. There's an existing workflow, process, status quo, where a lot of this activity happens in many different platforms. So there's the campaign brief and the development cycles around budget planning and audience strategy. There's creative development, and then there's the actual activation of the campaign. And ideally, the collection of data across all of these systems and places is coming together so that you can really understand what of these tactics is working and what's not. So as Adobe, we're not here to tell you that you need to replace your entire ecosystem. What we're really suggesting is that you focus in on key areas within this existing process that are going to help you really plan the spend of your acquisition dollars more efficiently, expand the reach of your first-party audiences so that you can find them where they are, and then focusing on the measurement of that impact of all these efforts to know what to optimize. Also, that you can make the most of your live campaigns and use data to plan for the next one. We know that everyone has room for improvement, and we recommend starting in these key areas and then really growing and expanding from there. So let's put this framework another way really fast. The teams who plan are using data from previous activations coupled with industry-leading AI and machine learning to really help them predict the optimal acquisition strategies. and then to expand reach to the most qualified audiences, understanding again who they can find and where in near real time when it's going to make an impact. And then it's being able to measure the impact of those tactics using growth metrics that are tied to ROI and actual revenue across all channels and tactics within a campaign in a single system. It's pulling all of that together so that you can then actively optimize during a campaign to make the most impact on the business overall. So what we're addressing here at Adobe is two key areas where we're able to help drive that impactful change and add value to this process. And that's around strategic collaboration and then unified incrementality measurement. So kind of tying all of this back together, this is how our Adobe products of Mix Modeler, Real-Time CDP Collaboration, and Customer Journey Analytics, which the three of us cover respectively, bring together this vision of improved customer acquisition to life within this existing approach that you have today. So we're not creating that wheel entirely. Instead, we're really trying to give you the better tires that help you navigate the bumps and the twists and the turns in the road that continue to come your way. So we're going to help you spend your acquisition dollars more efficiently, give you a better and more privacy-centric way to plan and expand your first-party audiences through technology that's unbiased, built for speed and scale, so that you can optimize with the necessary data and insights that are going to give you that effective measurement so that you can optimize. And this framework really provides a virtuous cycle, and it can live within your existing process and your ecosystem. It's interoperable, and it gets you that measurement and reporting validation that you need to access your full share of wallet so that you can show that tangible growth of your business with the ability to take those insights, access them, use them during campaigns to really make the impact on your bottom line. So Scott, why don't you kick us off and help the audience understand how we've been able to apply this at Adobe?
Yeah, thank you so much, Shana. And as Shana mentioned, we talk to brands across the globe. We hear their challenges, their solutions, etc. But we also do that. We have to market, and we are also in a continuous process of customer acquisition. So we'd love to share how we've been approaching it. So we'll talk about our own marketing organization at Adobe and how we've tackled this evolving customer acquisition landscape using these products and themes that we've outlined. So obviously we've been around for several decades and have many customers that have been with us from the very beginning, but acquiring new customers is not as straightforward as it used to be. So to tackle this, we took an introspective approach and started by analyzing how our internal processes and teams may be contributing to our challenges. So our primary hurdle was that we were operating being more focused on the price tag of creating experiences over the needs of the people who we were creating them for. So across our enterprise, there were inconsistencies in our approach to how we were investing our marketing budgets and executed campaigns. And as we look at the specifics, you can see that our channel execution teams operated independently of each other. So a fragmented approach meant fragmented results, preventing a holistic picture. Also, these different teams worked with different media agencies, so we lacked a standard operating model with these key partners. And then the evolving marketing and media landscape means more channels on which to find our targeted audiences. We were more focused on MTA attribution and therefore lacking a future-proof plan for cookie deprecation, as well as creating disconnected data outputs across channels and teams. And without the ability to gather real-time insights. So the couple of all of this with increasing privacy regulations as well as the rising costs of media really created the perfect storm that was upon us, and something that many of you who are listening may be able to relate to. So with all of this context, we can move to the solution. So our solution can be summed up in two words: consistency and innovation. We really focused on changing our operating model, which required top-down buy-in. So we realigned our teams to be more regional focused versus channel focused to ensure a more cohesive strategy development that catered to the regional nuances that we know exist. We also created a global media center of excellence to ensure our core agency partners worked across our different teams in a consistent manner. By following a best practices operating model. And then we created new teams that were directly responsible to support and oversee the implementation of these best practices. So this took time and it did not happen overnight, but it did result in a centralized data-driven view of our business that allowed us to plan more strategically, to reach the right people with greater efficiency, to measure holistically across our campaign efforts, and to actively optimize our campaigns to make the biggest impact while we were still live versus waiting until after the fact. So this cycle allows us to maximize our efforts and take important insights forward as we plan for the next campaign and initiative. And this is how we've built what we call a world-class customer acquisition engine. So now that we've talked through some of these challenges and our solution to how we approach this in a modified way, Marisa will take us through the results.
Great. Thanks, Scott. And what I love about this story is that I think it's really helpful to put into context that, again, we didn't even recreate the wheel for ourselves, right? The media agency partners that all of you work with, that we work with, they are such an integral part of this story, as well as our finance teams who really control the budget and kind of the purse strings here. So I think it's important to highlight that this is something we achieved in working across those other counterparts in a way that really benefited them by giving them new technology and new data to work with so we could all work together more cohesively. This isn't about replacing what a media agency does or taking all of this in-house because it's a lot. So we're not suggesting that. It's more about making sure that the people who are executing plans or making buying decisions are really part of the process and strategy development using the data and insights that we're able to get now. And to Scott's point, this is something that has taken, in some cases, a decade in development to get to this point, and in others, it has been a bit quicker. So this is all to say that we're not trying to wave a magic wand here and give false hope that you'll all just be able to do this if you do these, buy these 3 new products. It's more just about thinking a bit outside the box and how you might be approaching something today. And hopefully these results really speak for themselves and kind of inspire you to think about things a little bit differently. So Adobe Mix Modeler, the product that we're talking about first, was created out of Adobe's own need to prove the value of their investments. They wanted to have the option to optimize and plan their campaigns using revenue-based incrementality metrics. So not just taking credit for every purchase of Photoshop or every renewal of the Creative Cloud, but really around what would happen anyway. What's the baseline of activity based on market awareness and saturation? And then on top of that, what can my team actually say was driving value? What can our marketing organization really look to continue seeing those increased subscriptions over time? So over the last 5 years, the Adobe marketing team's been able to do that, showing an 80% return on media spend using this kind of model system that allows for planning so that they could show more accurate forecasting and be able to actually make decisions that could improve the returns over time versus testing new things and not really learning from those experiments. And on the reach side, Adobe is running an active campaign with our new real-time CDP collaboration technology, which is really allowing them to change the way that they work with a key publisher, which is NBC Universal. They're reaching more qualified audiences, and they report that they can continually optimizing demand creation against campaign metrics, really progressing customers through the funnel. And Doug here is quoted as saying that we're excited to share outcomes of this campaign in a few weeks ahead of Adobe Summit, so definitely be on the lookout for that. On the measurement and optimize side, leveraging this modern measurement framework that Customer Journey Analytics provides really allowed us to create a more comprehensive view of conversion and revenue metrics, including that incremental piece I just mentioned. It helped us identify the most impactful channels, creating messaging for the relevant customer segments, and really giving us sort of a multi-granularity approach to how we made optimizations while a campaign was active. So now Adobe's able to optimize their campaigns with more precision and clarity, both in quarter, sometimes weekly, depending on the campaign, as well as quarterly. And it's this continuous active assessment that really allows us to reallocate our budget and react to business shifts as they come up. So it really makes the marketing org a consistent growth driving force at Adobe, changing the way that our financial counterparts view the marketing org and really work with us as we ask for budgets or want to make changes to how we're operating. So a really interesting story. There's going to be an Adobe on Adobe customer success blog that we will share out as a follow-up in a few weeks once it goes live ahead of Adobe Summit. So just to kind of recap before we kind of show how this actually comes to life, I think it's important to highlight that the combination of products that we reviewed really helps to deliver the necessary scale and agility you need with the speed and efficiency that's necessary to maximize growth during campaign life cycles and react the way customers expect. I think it's important to highlight that Adobe is a company that does not own any media or audiences, so we don't really have skin in the game, so to speak. So we don't really have a vested interest in where a brand is going to buy or activate audiences, meaning that we're not grading our own homework. We're also a company that prides itself on innovation. In these solutions, we're using proprietary patent pending AI and machine learning technology, so say that 5 times fast, to make marketing mix modeling happen within hours as delivery data becomes available. We're speeding up a process that traditionally takes weeks or months, or if not biannually, really, at that point. We're also connecting you directly with publishers, where you can forecast estimated reach of your first-party data into their curated environments in just seconds. We're calling it hover-based technology. So instead of waiting for complex SQL queries to come back, we're giving you access to this to make your own autonomous decisions. We're giving you a powerful measurement system to truly democratize the data and insights that your team needs, giving them active optimization capability across all these different levels of tactics. And we're making all of this readily available in planning cycles when it's needed. So going back to the poll question we had asked earlier, Marissa from eMarketer, can you please remind us of the poll question and share some results just to kind of see where the audience is at with the challenges they're facing?
Yeah, thank you so much, Marissa. And great presentation thus far. So I'm excited to share the results of the poll with you. I know we took some guesses yesterday when we initially met and talked about today's session. So just as a reminder for our audience, the question was, what are some of the challenges you face in executing on acquisition strategies at your brands? So there was a clear winner today. Almost half of the audience, about 45% that took the poll, said measurement of obstacles. Following that, about 15% said proliferation of channels. About 13% said rising costs. About 9% said increasing privacy regulations. Another 9% said siloed media agency strategy. And lastly, 7% said isolated teams. So what do you all think of that clear winner, measurement obstacles? Was that what you were anticipating?
I mean, based on my job, yes, just because those are the conversations that I'm having, and Shana probably agrees. But I actually love that so many folks are feeling the connection with the teams that they work with. I think that's awesome. And we actually do hear quite a bit that people feel like it's really just the technology or the maybe foundational framework that they're lacking, but it's not necessarily division between teams or not getting access to the right information. So, Shana, I think that's a perfect tee up for what you focus on as well and what you hear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would love to say that I'm surprised, but I think that that's spot on to what we're hearing as well. So now that we have kind of an understanding of, the solution, the challenges, everything that we've covered today, we've walked through how Adobe's been kind of putting this together on our side on how we use it. We want to show a little bit more about how we can put this framework into action. So we'll walk you through some examples that really illustrate kind of an end-to-end manner of how you can ultimately leverage data-driven planning and forecasting to ensure that you're setting up for yourself up for success with the right insights and data that are going to help guide your strategies. Strategic collaboration, reach expansion, so that you can build upon your first-party data in a way that's privacy-centric, collaborating with the right partners for your brand. And then finally, that unified measurement and active optimization piece. Clearly, measurement is a challenge for everyone out there. We'll show some examples of how you can continuously optimize so that you can measure, learn, and iterate with speed. So, Marissa, why don't you kick us off with the examples?
Perfect. So what we're going to do is kind of take you through a demo simulation, so to speak. So we're not necessarily going to be going into product, but we're going to show you how our products enable brands to more strategically plan, reach, measure, and optimize their acquisition campaigns. So we have some videos and some animated screenshots to share. For today's demo, we're going to assume that this is a retail use case from Luma, which is a fictitious athletic apparel company that we'll use sometimes in fake demos. And this company company is getting ready to launch their brand new campaign for the shoe line of Luma Kicks that launched last year. They're just trying to drive up some more hype because they have increased budget to spend and they also have aggressive growth targets. So the marketing team knows they have to make the most of these dollars to prove the value of their acquisition efforts. So I'm going to start here in Adobe Mix Modeler, where I can review historical campaign spend and performance tied to growth metrics like ROI. I can see here that connected television or over the top and social activations have been strong performers in driving incremental revenue for Kicks in the past. It also looks like I have room to keep spending on some of my other channels, like maybe linear TV and billboards. So I'm still getting more than $1 back for every dollar I spend. Helpful insight for me as I consider what I want to invest in moving forward. So next, what I want to do is actually build a plan for this 2025 campaign. And I want Mix Modeler's AI functionality to find the optimal spend per channel to drive the most incremental revenue. So what I want to do is compare to what I ran last year. And you can see that as this is sliding through, we have two different plans that are being compared side by side. And I can see that heavying up in both connected television and social is predicted to contribute to higher ROI and revenue growth, which is an incredibly helpful insight for me to share with leadership to validate why I might be planning to spend more on these channels and what we could expect to see for our bottom line. So let's say my campaign is live and we are 4 weeks in. So I want to check in on how things are going. And I'm going to come into Mix Modeler to see how performance is trending to date. I built a new model to look at these insights. And as expected, I can see that I am expected to see some continued revenue growth. To date, it looks like I have some spikes in different traffic to the site and different ROI, probably because of some promotions I've been running in market as well. And we talk a lot about incrementality. So having a report that shows by day and overall how many conversions my marketing efforts are actually driving and how many I actually deserve credit for, and the ability to split that out by my spend and my non-spend channels, it's a big step in the right direction. It helps me really validate and be taken seriously within the internal finance orgs that I'm using budget effectively and efficiently to drive results. Another thing that I'm able to do in Mix Modeler is double click into the channels where I have click-based event level data for multi-touch attribution. We know that that is unfortunately a shrinking group of data, but for the data that you all do have access to, we're able to ingest that and use it. So I can see, for example, how my connected TV, where I may have activated through real-time CDP collaboration that Scott just talked about, is most impactful. So for example, it looks like connected TV is a great starter in a campaign, but maybe something like Instagram or Facebook is a better closer, and email is a great buffer in between. So really helpful for me as I consider what type of data-driven journeys and the construction of said journeys I might want to move forward with as this campaign progresses. And finally, I'm able to check out the performance to plan. So the plan that I created predicted that I would see 2x ROI and a certain number of incremental orders. So this data, because Mix Modeler was built on Experience Platform, I'm able to update it as that data comes in as regularly as a weekly basis if I wanted to, and retrain and rescore my models. So this view helps me see that while I'm pacing well to my budget and my spend commitments, I am trending a little bit below the projected estimated revenue. So this is a really helpful insight for me to now know that as this campaign is live, I can dig into my different channels and different campaign tactics and see where that revenue trend might be a little bit lower than expected. Do I need to refine my audience strategy and collaboration? Do I need to maybe check out different ways to engage these people with those journeys? So with that, I'll hand it over to Scott, who's going to talk a little bit more about that connected television activation in this example.
Thank you so much, Marissa. So as she mentioned, I'll walk through how to execute a more efficient CTV strategy on real-time CDP collaboration as part of this campaign. So in addition to premium publishers that are key to your customer acquisition strategy, I want to work with them to engage my customer and find more potential customers who look like them. So real-time CDP collaboration lets me radically simplify and enhance my data collaboration workflows. I can now connect with available publishers, reach new audiences, and then securely activate campaigns, all without running complex SQL queries or moving, exposing, or commingling any customer data. So I know my campaigns with TVTube have performed well in the past, and I'm going to work with them on a CTV buy for this holiday campaign. So the interoperability of these Adobe solutions means that the audience that I just discovered with AI Assistant and Real-Time CDP, which is where I manage all of my audiences, is here for me to use in seconds without requiring any additional preparation. So future product development will let me invite new advertisers and publishers who are not Adobe customers yet, and collaborate with any participating media publisher to overlay ad logs in real-time CDP collaboration, and then to see estimated impact on conversions for the campaign. So next we'll move to our next section of this demo. So thanks to Adobe's innovative architecture, I can overlap this audience with TVTube's audiences instantly for audience insights. And then in data clean rooms and other collaboration applications, this would normally take days, but here I didn't have to ship my data to TVTube, wait for engineers to execute SQL queries, and then give me these insights. I can see these overlap reports that are in high overlap between my high-value cart abandoners and TVTube reality TV viewers. And I'm going to re-engage this audience while they're streaming shows on the TVTube app. I'm also able to use this audience as a seed for TVTube to generate a lookalike audience in minutes. And this functionality is coming to the product later this year. So it looks like TVTube's lookalike audience has substantial volume for me to prospect and reach my campaign conversion goals. And in just a few easy clicks, I've re-engaged and expanded my first-party audience for activation, all with the technology built on top of Adobe Experience Platform. So after my campaign is live, I'm able to track additional metrics. So I can see that this activation has gotten 3.2 million impressions so far at a 2x frequency. It's been yielding 50% of unique new customer reach. And this is the kind of data that we've never been able to get in real-time CDP technology before this. And coming soon, because of my conversion data is being captured in Experience Platform, I can overlay it with TVTube's ad logs in real-time CDP collaboration to see the estimated impact on conversions for this TVTube campaign. So the value here is huge, and my media buyer will love these reports. Typically, brands working with publishers like these need to rely on off-the-shelf reports, but with real-time CDP collaboration, brands have much more control and access to deeper insights, which gives them a chance to optimize against these tactics during a campaign. So future product developments also means that I'll be able to push this product into Mixmodeler as an input, so I can see how this TVTube campaign is impacting incremental ROI holistically alongside my other initiatives and campaigns across all of my channel investments. So now I'll pass it over to Shana to show how we can leverage a product like Customer Journey Analytics to get more tactical in optimizations.
Okay, so I will bring this example home. Really excited about all of this. So first of all, I do just want to call out, if you're familiar with Customer Journey Analytics, or if you're not, here, this product incorporates data from all different kinds of data sources and channels, online, offline. You can bring in web, app, point of sale, CRM, or even call center data to begin to connect those touch points at the customer level, so that then you can really dive in and explore and extract insights about the paths that people are taking toward conversions. So it's not just the actual, tactics or the campaigns and the channels, but you can go much deeper. So I'm going to kick this example off with AI Assistant here, telling me what my total orders were for the last 30 days. And today I'm actually able to pull in incremental order and revenue data from Mixmodeler, so I can easily drag and drop that in and see how that compares side by side with the conversion data that I'm capturing already. We noticed that on November 16th, that's when things really kicked up. we can then break that down by campaign. So then here we can see, unsurprisingly, that the reason that we had that uptick was because of our Lumikicks campaign, the activation that we did on TV Tube. It's clearly working here, so I can continue to dig into my data and go further to understand more of those technical things that can then influence what we're doing. So having access to timely data is really important, and that's what makes those in-flight optimizations tied to revenue possible. So here I will just quickly transition to a customer-specific analysis. So moving down funnel, I want to understand which products are people buying along with the Luma Kicks. Here I can see that Luma Sweats are most common, and this insight can really be used to inform, maybe product placement on my website to encourage those new customers to become those lifelong customers. Maybe it's a retargeting campaign or something that I'm going to send out via email to encourage those new customers that we're trying to acquire here to really come back again and again. So what we've run through today, we've been able to demonstrate, how seamlessly those pillars of customer acquisition can work together when there's a consistent framework that's really underpinning everything that you're doing. So with that, we encourage you to take these steps. Think plan, reach, measure, repeat, get that ingrained into your mind there. But really, you can take the initiative to reshape that narrative at your organization so that you're measuring the incremental impact of both your channel and audience investments across touch points that are going to drive those key business outcomes to maybe decrease wasted spend and acquisition cost. Activating with partners and publishers so that you can find scalable reach using those durable customer data to drive your brand growth and expand your first-party audiences in a very privacy-centric way. And then finally, modernizing your measurement framework, tracking those growth metrics across channels, campaigns, creatives, audience, really understanding the success of those acquisition campaigns, and then being able to make those in-flight active optimizations. So to learn more about our offering and what we are doing in the customer acquisition space, you can check out this QR code. And hopefully we'll see some of you at Adobe Summit, where we'll be going into a lot of this in more depth. So with that, Marissa, I think it's time maybe for a couple of questions.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. First, before we get to those, Marissa, Scott, Shana, let me thank you so much for so much great content as a part of today's presentation. I'd loved hearing more about the Adobe story and how to ensure that brands really continue to improve that customer acquisition and all of those strategies behind it. And thank you again for those great examples and also the demo videos. Those really helped a lot to, I think, showcase some of those use cases. So we have just a few minutes left. Let's get to as many questions as we can in that time. Shanna, I'm going to put the first question over to you. Our viewer asks, how can I strike the right balance of measuring my acquisition tactics and also digging into customer data?
Yeah, that's a great one. And, I didn't have a ton of time to really dive into that today. But I think that's a balance you have to figure out. And there's a little bit of trial and error as you're going about it. Because obviously with any acquisition strategy, the goal is ultimately purchases or conversions. And so being able to have those incremental data points around ROI and orders is critical for your business. But when you are able to then spend more time digging into customer trends and behaviors and really interrogating and exploring your data, you can uncover insights that you didn't realize were there. Maybe there's an issue with a page in the flow to get people to purchase that's causing them not to purchase. And that's something that, you can't uncover if you're not digging in. So a balance is definitely needed. And I would say that looking for deeper insights is probably just as important as understanding those core KPI and incremental revenue metrics.
All right. Well, thank you. I know our viewers are always so are so appreciative of any guidance as to how they can balance what they're measuring or what they're looking at or even their time. So thank you for that. Marissa, next question is for you. Our viewer has a clarifying question on what is and is not included in some of the things that you were addressing. Are you only able to include digital paid media, or could you also include offline media channels such as TV or radio, and non-marketing factors such as macroeconomics, competitive activity, et cetera? What are your thoughts on that one?
Love that question. Thank you again for teeing us up so nicely to kind of get into it, viewer. But yes, to answer your question, all of the things that you just asked are 100% able to be taken into account. What we've recently released with the advent of Mix Modeler, which is a pretty new product. It's been around for about a year and a half, but it has been used over the last decade by Adobe, as we were mentioning. But it was built to take in online and offline digital, non-digital, paid, earned, and owned channels. And the benefit is that customer journey analytics that Shana was speaking to now supports taking in summary level data of those channels as well. So this really helps with the interconnectivity that we're speaking to of kind of having this holistic modern measurement framework that allows you to really combine the digital and the physical and the paid, earned, and owned in a way that gives you a more complete picture. So to answer the question, digital is one of the channels, digital paid media, that Mix Modeler can look at. And that's also where real-time CDP collaboration really plays a strong role in enhancing and developing a more data-driven audience strategy.
All right, thank you for sharing. All of that was included. Scott, we're going to sneak one last one in for you here. So our next viewer says, given the complexities of managing first-party data, ID resolution, and activating audiences in real time, how does your CDP support publishers in streamlining this process? Specifically, how does your solution integrate with major DSPs and ensure compliance with evolving privacy regulations?
Yeah, that's a big question. So there's a lot that's gone into the development of this, and it's something that we've been working on for various years to build this type of tech. But I think as far as building those relationships, we are building relationships with publishers to make it easy to connect with those who are right for the type of campaign that you're looking to implement, as well as the channels that are going to be best for what you're looking at. But we always encourage people to start with what are the audiences that you're looking to discover information on, and then work from there to decide who do you need to connect with, where is that data coming from, and how can it best be used. But definitely happy to connect with anyone who has interest in joining CDP collaboration to really discuss what's best for them.
Thank you so much. Those privacy regulations are always evolving, so that was extremely helpful. Thank you for sharing that. Marisa, Scott, and Shana, it was really great to be with you for the past hour. Thanks for the great content and for answering all of those questions from our audience. It was so great to have you with us.
Yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. So before we wrap up, let me just take a moment to tell you what's happening across eMarketer's media channels. You can register for live analyst and tech talk webinars on our events page at emarketer.com/events. Don't forget to check out our various podcasts. We have Behind the Numbers, Reimagining Retail, and the Banking and Payments Show, which you can listen anywhere that you find podcasts or watch on Spotify and also eMarketer's YouTube channel. And finally, please subscribe to our newsletters. Thank you all for joining us. And thanks again to Marisa, Scott, and Shana and the team at Adobe and our eMarketer Studio team behind the scenes for making this webinar possible. We'll see you all on the next Tech Talk.